Hello. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at the new Max Creation Graph tool included with 3ds Max 2016. This video will be an overview of the creation graph and its components, and how they can be assembled with a short, easy-to-follow example. To begin, open up Max 2016, go to the Scripting drop-down, and click on the Max Creation Graph editor. When you open the Creation Graph tool, you'll have an empty workspace. I've actually created my own file here for this tutorial, but if you wanted to have a brand new blank workspace, you could simply click New up here. So much akin to Rhino's Grasshopper, if you've used that before, the Creation Graph is a tool that allows you to create parametric scripts using a visual interface without the need for coding experience. These scripts are generated in a flowchart-like structure, taking an operator from the selection of operator nodes and dragging it onto the workspace. The list of nodes included in the Creation Graph is extensive, with each divided into its own category. To narrow down the list of operators, we can use the search bar above the list of operators, or by pressing X in the workspace, we can type in a search term, such as mesh, which will show us all the operators that start with mesh, or we can type in asterisk, mesh, and that'll show us all the operators with the word mesh inside the name. Each of these operators have different functions and properties, and only work in particular parts of the creation graph. The first type of operator is the parameter. This is where the user of your tool can enter in data, whether it be a mesh, or in this case, a numerical value. Here you can change the name of the field the user enters the data into. Here you can change the minimum and maximum values of this data. And then here is where the data is outputted into the next operator node. Similar to parameters are values, nominated by an orange color. Unlike parameters, values don't use user-inputted data and instead output a single value. These then feed to the nodes, which are nominated by a blue color. These perform the main calculations of your graph, doing things like calculating math or changing data types. Compounds, nominated in a purple magenta color, act just like nodes, except they themselves are made up of a number of operators. To see these operators, we simply need to right-click on the compound object and select Open Compound in New tab. From here you can adjust the individual components of the compound, changing the nodes, inputs, and outputs. Finally, we have the output. This is the data that is placed into the 3ds Max plane. For example, a resulting mesh from calculated inputs. Here's a quick example of a creation graph I created with a parameter, node, and output. The inputs and outputs have been linked by dragging these nodes and connecting them to each other. Combined, these operators will create a tool to generate an icosahedron with a user-defined radius. To use this tool in Max, we will first need to evaluate the file. To do this, go to the Build drop-down and select Evaluate. As you'll see down here, it'll say that the validation has failed for this file because it found multiple output nodes. To fix this, we will need to first delete all the other operators in the file, ensuring that there are no other duplicated inputs or outputs, and that there are no unconnected operators. Now do a Save As, give it a name, go to Build, click Evaluate, and you'll see that now the validation has succeeded. Now all we need to do is minimize the Creation Graph tool, and then under Geometry, go down to Max Creation Graph, and you'll see our tool is right here. If we just click on that, we can now adjust the radius under our parameter, and then all we need to do is click on the workspace, and there you have it. You could always go back to your creation graph and actually limit this radius under these options here, or you could even change this parameter entirely to make it a fixed radius using a value, or even have a node that performs mathematical operations to multiply this radius, or anything really that you choose using parametric inputs. So that covers the basics of the creation graph and the different types of operators. In the next tutorial, we'll be looking at creating a more complex custom creation graph, a parametrically controlled soft selection tool.